Episode 4, Why Mindful Eating Isn't What You Think. Hi, and welcome back to the Optifast Lifestyle Education Series. This episode is the fourth in a series of topics, each one helping you with a different aspect of health, with an emphasis on weight control. Today, we're going to look at mindfulness, what it is, what it isn't, and in particular, how it might apply to eating. Perhaps by now you've heard about mindfulness. The concept of mindfulness was developed during the 1980s as a way of bringing Buddhist practices into psychological treatments. But the principles involved in mindfulness have been around for many years prior to that. One of the things people sometimes get confused about is the name itself, mindfulness. Often we might talk of being mindful or say, I don't mind, in conversation. And in this case, we're basically referring to paying attention to something or giving it some particular importance. I want to emphasize here that mindfulness, as it's used in psychology nowadays, is actually quite different. When mindfulness was first developed some 30 years ago, it was a way to reduce stress and anxiety through the Buddhist idea of acceptance. So, while you might think that being mindful of something is about paying careful attention to it, when psychologists originally talked about mindfulness, we were actually asking people to let their attention go where it wants to go in the moment. Let me give you an example. Say you've arrived home from work and are preparing a meal for dinner. What would mindfulness involve in this kind of a situation? Well, that all depends on what you notice. As you move around the kitchen, what sensations or feelings would you experience? Perhaps you are hungry. Perhaps there are other things happening inside you. Maybe you have some feelings about the day you've had, or maybe you're excited about the meal to come. Being mindful means letting any and all of these feelings in and not judging them or trying to push any of them away, but just embracing them as they come. So, what about eating mindfully? Well, in this context, the meaning of mindfulness seems to have changed over recent years. Originally, it was about letting your feelings and experience take over, but for people wanting to manage weight through eating, mindful eating really actually means paying attention to what you are doing whenever you eat. So for now, to avoid confusion, I'm going to call it something a little different. I'm going to call what we need to do attentive eating. The principle of attentive eating is simple. If you are eating, whenever you are eating, don't do anything else. The best thing about attentive eating is that it does not require you to make any other changes to your behavior. It's a simple rule that you can put in place, but it can have powerful results. Have a look at the worksheet for this episode. Take a moment to jot down on this worksheet some of the things you might sometimes do while eating. A lot of us have the television on or a phone screen in front of us when we eat, particularly if we're eating alone. Sometimes we eat when doing something else like cooking a meal or even snacking in a car. Attentive eating means you can really only be doing one thing when you're eating, and that is eating. Removing distractions and ending the multitasking when you eat can make a big difference to your eating habits, particularly if you are working to change these automatic habits. Actually, paying attention when you are eating is so important that I'm going to dedicate a whole other episode to it. If you're interested, it's episode number 9 called The Odd Feeling That Everyone Gets, Nobody Wants, but is incredibly useful. But for now, I'll just tell you that attentive eating begins with paying attention to your reactions during the stages of meal planning, food preparation, and eating itself. The intention is to observe your behavior a bit like a third-party onlooker with no judgment or criticism. You may discover more about your eating including feelings that food stirs up in you. And this can be useful information in making further changes to your health or to your actions. Being mindful means being open and ready to learn from these experiences. And giving yourself the opportunity to learn means clearing away other activities and distractions and paying attention to your eating whenever it happens. Thanks for listening. Looking after yourself is a terrific thing to do and will bring benefits not only to you, but to the other people in your life. So keep going. It's working. Remember to be kind to yourself along the way. And I'll see you next time.